Across the country, old-school riders are watching something they never thought they'd see. Harley's pride leaking on garage floors. The Milwaukee-8 was supposed to be the heartbeat of the next generation, but now it's the center of a scandal no PR team can hide. Oil where it shouldn't be, bearings starving, riders stranded. And while the company stayed quiet, the brotherhood started talking. Every clip, every teardown, every angry post, it's proof that loyalty only goes so far before it breaks. In this video, we find out how the truth slipped through Harley's chrome and why riders are finally done being silent. Myth in metal. When the Milwaukee-8 scandal exploded online, the shock didn't just hit the riders, it hit the people who built the bikes. Inside the factories at Milwaukee and York, screens glowed late into the night as workers watched videos of seized engines, leaking cases, and riders cursing the very machines they had assembled with pride. The viral footage wasn't coming from outsiders. It was coming from their own customers, men and women who once swore Harley made the strongest engines on Earth. The comment sections filled with disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. For the first time, the myth of perfection was collapsing in real time, and the builders could feel it in their bones. Many of them had seen the warning signs long before the world did. They'd noticed rejected parts quietly approved, batches reworked under pressure, quality checks signed off with missing numbers. But speaking up meant risking everything: paychecks, pensions, pride. Supervisors told them the same thing: keep the line moving. When the scandal went viral, those same managers pretended they were blindsided. But the workers knew better. They had lived with the hum of those engines. They had felt when something was off. Now, watching millions of views pile up on videos exposing the truth, those same factory hands felt both shame and vindication. They hadn't been wrong. They'd been silenced. Every viral clip was a confession the company never made. And behind every pixel of that footage was a worker whispering, "We tried to tell you." The roar dimmed. Truth waited inside sealed corporate drawers. Rivals smell vulnerability. The viral wave didn't just humiliate Harley, it opened the door for everyone waiting in the shadows. Indian Motorcycle's marketing team moved faster than Harley's PR could draft a statement. Within days of the scandal trending, they launched new ads built around a single cutting phrase: heritage without compromise. Those 4 words struck like a hammer. The imagery was surgical. Close-ups of polished engines, oil running clean, riders thundering across highways without a drop on the floor. It was a direct answer to Harley's dirty secret, and every rider watching knew it. BMW and Triumph joined the fray. BMW showcased its boxer engines running spotless after long-distance endurance tests, while Triumph reminded viewers that craftsmanship wasn't supposed to leak. Even smaller brands jumped on the opportunity, quietly buying ad space next to Harley scandal videos and promoting themselves as the bikes that won't betray you. The timing was brutal and brilliant. Harley's silence became a marketing budget for its rivals. Dealers across America began to notice the change. Riders who once wouldn't glance at another brand were walking into Indian and Triumph showrooms asking one question: "Does it do that?" referring to Harley's viral oil problem. Some dealers tried defending the Milwaukee-8, but the damage was digital and permanent. Once millions of people saw oil dripping from a supposedly bulletproof engine, trust evaporated faster than fuel in the sun. Harley's biggest rival wasn't another manufacturer anymore, it was the internet. The roar had gone viral, and this time it wasn't pride echoing through the crowd. It was exposure. Paper whispers turned to proof when riders tore engines apart. If you've ever owned a Harley or felt burned by one, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Tell us in the comments what you ride and where you ride. Riders in the mirror. Across the country, in garages and backyards, owners began taking matters into their own hands. Some tore down their engines after repeated failures. Others sent oil samples to labs. What they found wasn't rumor, it was metal. Tiny shavings in the filter, burn marks on pistons, bearings that looked scorched after only a few thousand miles. Videos began to appear online. Detailed, gritty breakdowns showing oil trapped where it shouldn't be, or drains running dry. These weren't amateurs making noise. Many were retired mechanics, former service techs, or lifelong riders who knew what healthy engines should look like. Their findings lined up perfectly with the memo Harley tried to bury. Forums became investigation boards. Spreadsheets appeared tracking VIN numbers, build months, and mileage at failure. Patterns emerged faster than any corporation could deny them. It wasn't a few unlucky owners. It was widespread. Street glides, and road kings from different states showing identical failure points. The tone of the conversation changed. This wasn't frustration anymore. It was evidence. What struck the community most wasn't the damage. It was the unity. Riders who once argued about oil brands and exhaust pipes now compared data and shared photos. The same loyalty that once protected Harley was now protecting each other. For many, it wasn't about hating the brand. It was about saving it from those who had stopped listening. Screens lit garages nationwide, demanding a voice from silence. If you stand with riders who value truth over polish, hit the description. Every piece of gear linked there is built for the long haul. The CEO walks to the mic. Months after the scandal exploded online, Harley's new chief executive finally addressed the issue in a televised statement. The moment felt surreal. The brand that once defined American pride now stood on a stage explaining why its engines were failing. His tone was measured, the language careful. We did not respond quickly enough to concerns raised by our customers. To anyone who's lived through corporate spin, that was code for, we knew, but we waited. The admission confirmed what riders had been saying all along. The problem wasn't their maintenance, their oil choice, or their throttle hand. The fault was built in. The reaction among owners was mixed. Some felt vindicated, finally proven right after years of being dismissed. Others felt only heartbreak. A few had already sold their bikes, taking heavy losses to escape what they feared might be catastrophic failure down the road. The speech promised reforms, new quality oversight, and a renewed commitment to rider trust. But for a community built on loyalty, words weren't enough. Trust, once cracked, doesn't patch with policy. It rebuilds through proof. In dealerships, small groups gathered around smartphones to watch the replay. In garages, old riders nodded in silence, not angry anymore, just tired. The company's confession had confirmed everything they suspected, yet it offered no comfort. They had fought too hard, waited too long, and lost too much value and faith to celebrate an apology. For the first time in Harley's long history, the loudest sound wasn't the rumble of its engines. It was the collective silence of those who once defended it. Confession echoed across Chrome. Now the mechanics wanted answers. When the oil won't go home. Inside every Milwaukee-8 engine, oil is supposed to flow like blood. Steady, constant, and precise. It leaves the sump, moves through the filter, lubricates the crank, cools the pistons, and returns home again. That cycle should never break. But in too many of these engines, something interrupts that rhythm. Instead of returning to the sump, the oil gets trapped up top, pooling inside the heads. The scavenger pump, meant to draw it back down, sometimes fails to keep up, especially under heavy heat or long-haul stress. That's when the pressure builds, bearings starve, and what should be a proud rumble turns into a dry mechanical gasp. Riders describe it like watching a living thing suffocate. One minute, the oil gauge is steady. The next, it drops without warning. The engine loses pressure, and a faint rattle begins to echo through the frame. By the time most riders pull over, the damage is already done. The cause isn't misuse or poor maintenance. It's physics fighting design. The breather system, intended to manage crankcase ventilation, can't compensate fast enough for trapped oil, leading to blow-by, heat spikes, and oil migration between compartments. In some cases, oil literally travels from the primary to the transmission, leaving one starved and the other overfilled. For riders who trusted the Milwaukee-8 to take them across states, this failure feels personal. You can replace a pump, rebuild a motor, but you can't rebuild confidence once it's gone. What's worse, most dealers initially dismissed it as normal transfer. The phrase stuck like an insult. There's nothing normal about a motor starving itself while idling in traffic. It was a design oversight, not rider error, and the evidence was sitting right there, trapped in the metal. Inside those engines, betrayal flowed thicker than the oil itself. The bulletin versus the recall. When a manufacturer issues a recall, it's a public act of accountability. Owners get letters, regulators are notified, and the fix becomes part of official record. But a service bulletin, that's different. It's a whisper, passed quietly from headquarters to dealers. It tells technicians what to look for, what to say, and sometimes what not to say. And that's exactly how Harley handled the Milwaukee-8 oil crisis. Instead of a recall, they released a series of bulletins disguised as service updates. The language softened the blow. Customer-reported oil transfer, expected variation, performance characteristics. Each phrase diluted the truth until it sounded harmless. For corporate accountants, this strategy saved millions. A recall triggers mandatory repairs, parts production, and legal oversight. A bulletin, on the other hand, keeps everything internal, cheap, contained, and invisible. The company knew that most owners would never hear about it unless they complained loudly enough. That decision turned a solvable defect into a festering wound. Riders who might have had their engines repaired under warranty instead paid out of pocket, unaware that the same problem had been quietly logged elsewhere. Mechanics across dealerships began to notice the pattern. Some were told not to call it a defect. Others were reminded to avoid certain language when filling out repair forms. The goal wasn't transparency, it was control. On paper, Harley could claim it had addressed the issue. In practice, riders remained in the dark. Even seasoned technicians privately admitted the fix kits felt like patches, not solutions. New oil pumps, updated gaskets, and revised breathers helped, but they didn't eliminate the root cause. The choice to issue bulletins instead of recalls wasn't just corporate strategy, it was moral surrender. It traded honesty for optics, trust for savings. Every time an owner left a dealership reassured that it's just normal transfer, they walked away with false comfort and a ticking clock inside their engine. Files traded hands quietly, but riders prepared louder testimonies ahead. Evidence in a courtroom. Soon? Once the internal documents leaked, the next phase began. The legal reckoning. Law firms from multiple states started gathering complaints, warranty claims, and service invoices tied to Milwaukee-8 engines. Patterns formed quickly. Same symptoms, same models, same corporate responses. Lawyers called it a systemic concealment of a known defect. Riders just called it betrayal. The first lawsuits alleged that Harley had long known about the oil starvation issue and deliberately chose not to recall the affected bikes. Each new filing carried testimony from mechanics and engineers who had seen the failures firsthand. As more evidence surfaced, the scale of the problem grew impossible to ignore. VIN tracking revealed clusters of failures from specific production batches. Internal memos showed engineers discussing the same heat management flaws that owners complained about online. Warranty data confirmed repeat repairs on identical components, oil pumps, breathers, gaskets, without any permanent fix. For investigators, it was like connecting dots on a map that the company had tried to erase. Regulatory agencies took notice. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration began quietly reviewing data to determine whether the issue posed a safety risk. If oil starvation caused engine seizure while riding, it wasn't just a defect, it was a hazard. Class action lawyers argued that Harley's delay in disclosure had put thousands of riders at risk. The lawsuits didn't just seek money, they sought accountability. Every subpoena, every deposition, every leaked document added pressure. For once, the silence that had shielded Harley became evidence against it. What had started as rumors on forums was now becoming sworn testimony. The paper trail was catching up to the roar, and when truth enters a courtroom, there's nowhere left to hide. The court wasn't waiting. The Brotherhood began building evidence together. Riders become investigators. When the company stayed quiet, the community spoke. Riders began tracking failures on their own, creating shared databases listing model years, VIN numbers, and mileage at failure. It started small, one post on a forum, one spreadsheet shared through email, but soon it became a movement. Within months, hundreds of entries appeared, showing identical breakdowns across the same engine family. Patterns no longer needed experts to interpret, they were undeniable. Independent mechanics joined in, posting teardown photos and analysis videos. Some even sent oil samples to labs for testing, confirming the same contamination and metal traces across multiple bikes. Others went further, cross-referencing parts, tracing revision codes, and identifying which updates coincided with reduced failure rates. This wasn't just data collection. It was investigative journalism done by the people who owned the evidence. The Brotherhood had turned itself into an unofficial research network. What made it remarkable wasn't the technology, it was the determination. Riders who had spent their lives trusting this brand refused to accept silence as an answer. They shared costs, tested theories, and demanded accountability with the precision of engineers and the passion of believers. Each story added to the record: seized bearings, oil loss, premature wear, and unanswered claims. The louder they got, the harder it became for Harley to maintain its narrative of isolated incidents. This movement wasn't born out of hatred. It was born out of love for what the brand used to stand for. The community wasn't trying to destroy Harley. They were trying to save it from itself. Through forums, podcasts, and meetups, they built something the company had lost: a culture of honesty. Riders realized that they didn't need permission to seek the truth. Together, they proved that the spirit of American craftsmanship doesn't live in a boardroom. It lives in the hands of those who refuse to be silenced. Data turned to defiance. The spreadsheet spoke louder than apologies. Brand I loved, trust I lost. For generations, Harley was more than a motorcycle. It was a family name. Fathers passed it down to sons. Veterans rode it home from war, and friends built their lives around that sound of thunder between their knees. It represented loyalty, strength, and a kind of brotherhood that couldn't be bought. The Milwaukee-8 was supposed to honor that legacy. Instead, for thousands of riders, it became the moment everything changed. When the truth came out, the heartbreak was almost quiet. It wasn't a fiery outrage. It was the hollow silence that follows disappointment too deep to yell about. Longtime owners described deep betrayal, realizing their loyalty had been exploited. A Texas rider who'd owned Harleys since the 1970s put it plainly: "It's not the oil loss that hurt, it's the lies. Engines can fail, deceit should not." Knowing Harley ignored the issue cut deeper than any breakdown. Some sold their bikes in anger, others kept them polished but parked. Symbols of love turned loss. A few still rode, fueled by pride, not trust. Across forums and garages, the same sorrow echoed, heartbreak wrapped in chrome. Harley had once stood for freedom and brotherhood, but silence from the company turned devotion into disbelief. The legend they built together had forgotten the riders who made it immortal. When hearts cracked, markets followed. Trust doesn't survive silence long. Harley's value is in freefall. For decades, Harley's resale value was untouchable. A road glide or street glide could hold its worth longer than almost any cruiser on the market. It was the closest thing to a mechanical investment an ordinary man could make. But after the Milwaukee-8 scandal broke, that reputation collapsed almost overnight. Dealers who once bragged about long wait lists were suddenly calling old customers, begging to buy used stock at reduced prices. Auction floors filled with bikes barely a few years old, selling for half their original cost. Resale charts that used to rise with pride now dropped like a bad gear shift. Trade-in offers dropped nearly 20%, insurance values followed, and banks tightened lending. The same touring bikes once symbolizing pride now carried stigma. Buyers asked, "Does it have the bad engine?" This wasn't depreciation, it was lost confidence. In motorcycling, value equals belief, and Harley's had cracked. Loyalists defended the brand, but reputation doesn't heal easily. Once a legend's roar turns doubtful, chrome loses its shine. Harley's books confirmed what every rider already felt. The market's thunder had faded into uneasy silence. Every dollar lost echoed through Harley's boardroom like a misfire. If you believe riders deserve honesty, not headlines, subscribe right now. Every new voice strengthens this brotherhood, and every subscription makes it harder for corporate silence to win again. Boardroom panic over our bikes. Behind the closed doors of Harley's corporate headquarters, the mood shifted from pride to panic. Financial reports showed sales declines sharper than the company had faced in a decade. Meetings grew tense. Executives argued over whether to issue another recall, fearing that public acknowledgement would sink the brand further. Marketing teams scrambled to rebuild the image of trust, while engineers were pressed to find solutions faster than production lines could keep up. What had started as a technical issue had turned into a cultural reckoning. Investors demanded answers as stocks fell and confidence cracked. Harley's greatest asset, rider loyalty, was slipping away. Reports warned, trust is currency. The company wasn't just losing money, it was losing meaning. Heritage ads couldn't mask betrayal. The real threat wasn't bankruptcy, it was becoming irrelevant to the very riders who once built its legend. The board trembled first, then Washington heard the engines stall. Capitol Hill isn't ignoring us. What began as a mechanical defect had now become a national conversation. Lawmakers and regulators started asking questions Harley couldn't easily answer. How long had the company known about the Milwaukee-8 flaws? Why had it chosen bulletins instead of recalls? And how many riders had been left stranded or endangered because of those choices? Behind the scenes, committees began reviewing evidence submitted by independent investigators, rider groups, and legal teams. For the first time, the sound of Harley's name was echoing not through rallies or dealerships, but through congressional hearings. Consumer safety advocates demanded justice, pushing for stronger recall powers and full transparency from motorcycle manufacturers. Rumors of subpoenas spread as lawmakers took notice. This wasn't politics, it was accountability. When loyal riders lose faith, Washington listens. Photos of seized engines entered official hearings, transforming online outrage into federal scrutiny. Harley's era of quiet control ended. The roar that once symbolized freedom now echoed through Congress, demanding truth, not applause. Power shifted hands. The fight rolled from highways to hearings. Our hands built this, now they own the silence. When the Milwaukee-8 scandal exploded online, the shock didn't just hit the riders, it hit the people who built the bikes. Inside the factories at Milwaukee and York, screens glowed late into the night as workers watched videos of seized engines, leaking cases, and riders cursing the very machines they had assembled with pride. The viral footage wasn't coming from outsiders, it was coming from their own customers, men and women who once swore Harley made the strongest engines on Earth. The comments sections filled with disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. For the first time, the myth of perfection was collapsing in real time, and the builders could feel it in their bones. Workers saw the flaws long before the headlines, rejected parts approved, pressure to keep the line moving. When the scandal went viral, managers acted shocked, but the builders knew. Each viral video was proof they'd been ignored, every frame a whisper from the factory floor. We tried to tell you. Pride cracked open. Across the industry, competitors smelled opportunity rising. Rivals smell vulnerability. The viral wave didn't just humiliate Harley, it opened the door for everyone waiting in the shadows. Indian Motorcycle's marketing team moved faster than Harley's PR could draft a statement. Within days of the scandal trending, they launched new ads built around a single cutting phrase, heritage without compromise. Those 4 words struck like a hammer. The imagery was surgical. Close-ups of polished engines, oil running clean, riders thundering across highways without a drop on the floor. It was a direct answer to Harley's dirty secret, and every rider watching knew it. BMW and Triumph seized the moment, flaunting spotless endurance runs, while smaller brands advertised beside Harley scandal clips, promising bikes that won't betray you. Dealers felt the shift as loyal riders asked, "Does it leak?" Millions saw oil drip from a bulletproof engine. Harley's loudest rival wasn't competition, it was the internet, exposing everything. Exposed wounds attract lawmakers, the kind that write truth into law. The rules might force truth. After years of frustration, riders weren't the only ones demanding accountability. Lawmakers and regulators had begun drafting new measures aimed squarely at preventing another Harley-style cover-up. Under proposals discussed in the wake of the Milwaukee-8 scandal, motorcycle manufacturers would face the same reporting standards as automakers. Any internal memo acknowledging safety or performance defects would need to be disclosed to federal regulators within a defined time frame. Failure to comply could result in heavy fines or even criminal charges for deliberate concealment. After months of testimony from mechanics and riders, lawmakers acted. The issue wasn't missing rules, it was missing enforcement. Transparency became law, not favor. Manufacturers protested, riders celebrated. This wasn't bureaucracy, it was protection. Harley's scandal forced an industry reckoning, proving loyalty deserves oversight. The road ahead would finally be paved with accountability, not silence. Laws can change systems, but only riders can change legacies. What every rider should do now. For riders still holding on to their Milwaukee-8 machines, the path forward starts with vigilance. Document everything, every oil change, every service ticket, every symptom, no matter how small. Keep records, share them publicly, and demand written confirmation from dealerships for every diagnosis. If your engine runs clean, celebrate it. If it doesn't, make noise. The power of this community has never come from lawyers or executives. It's come from the riders who refuse to be quiet. The same brotherhood that built the legend can rebuild its integrity. Riders nationwide are uniting as watchdogs, sharing data, testing oil systems, and defending craftsmanship itself. It's not rebellion, it's restoration. The love for Harley endures, reshaped by truth and unity. What once roared for pride now thunders for accountability. The brotherhood that built Harley will rebuild its honor, one wrench, 1 mile, one unbroken promise at a time. At the end of the day, it's not just about oil leaks, it's about honesty. Harley built legends once, machines you could trust your life to. Somewhere along the line, that pride got traded for silence. But the brotherhood's louder than ever now, and the truth's back in the saddle. If you believe riders deserve answers, not excuses, hit subscribe.